Welcome back to my alphabet series. In this video, we're going to learn how to letter the lowercase d. We're going to be doing this in my brushstrokes workbook. And I just wanted to start off with an encouraging quote. Martin Luther King Jr. says, "Faith is taking the first step, even when you can't see the whole staircase." So when you're learning a new skill like brush lettering, it takes that, just taking that first step and diving in, trying, and keep practicing consistently. Even if it's just a few minutes every day, you'll see a big difference. My name is Shelly Hitz, and I am the artist behind yourcreativeadventure.com. I'm also the author of the Brushstrokes Workbook. It's a comprehensive 168-page workbook that has everything you need to know about lettering in it. This is how I've set up my practice sheets for the lowercase alphabet in the workbook. You have each stroke separately. So the D has an oval, and then it has like this little loop up here, and it comes down around. And a D can look a lot of different ways. Sometimes you can just come straight down, you don't have the loop, but this is the particular style that I've chosen for the workbook. And anytime these strokes are separated in the workbook, it typically means that that's when you're gonna lift your pen. So that's one of the things that makes lettering different than calligraphy, is that you lift your pen. And the oval is something that needs practice continually. Like even now, I'm always feeling like I still need practice with it. So you're going to start more on the right hand side, come up thin, come down thick, and then come back up thin. And then with this, you're going to come up thin, transition to come down thick, come up thin. So the big difference, one of the big differences with brush lettering and cursive handwriting is the variations with the thick and the thin strokes. Cursive handwriting is monoline, which monoline is beautiful too. I teach that in the lettering ladder system. It's one of the steps of the way I teach you how to learn lettering in my brushstrokes workbook. But really, it's really fun to learn the variation in the strokes, the thicks and the thins, and this takes practice because it takes muscle memory. It's kind of like learning your scales when you're playing an instrument. You know, you're learning the scales, you're learning the basics, and then you can make beautiful music, you know, once you know your notes, once you have that comfortable. But, you know, I remember when I was learning to play the flute growing up, you know, I'm sure my parents didn't always enjoy listening to me practice because I wouldn't always get it right, or some instruments, you know, like clarinets will squeak and all of that. And so there's going to be a learning process, and just embracing that and allowing yourself to be a beginner. So then the second step is now to trace the entire letter together. So you've done the separate strokes. Now let's bring it together, and you're going to come up again and around, kind of got caught on that, and down and around. Now this workbook is meant to be traced and written in, so I have it printed on really smooth paper, so it's not going to fray your brush pens. And yet, if you want, you can also use tracing paper. So tracing paper is great for just using in your workbook, and that way you can just use it over and over and over again. But you also can just write directly in the workbook. I encourage you to do that. That's why I've had it printed on such nice paper. If I would have wanted you just to use tracing paper, I could have saved a lot of money and had it printed on cheaper paper. So definitely go ahead and write in it. And also, like, it shows you your progress. Like, it gives you a record. You can always keep this workbook and look back and see where you started, and that's so fun. I love looking back on some of my older work. You can go back to the very beginning of my Instagram account at Your Creative Adventure. I didn't start that account at the very beginning of my lettering journey, but pretty soon, just a few months after I started. And so you can see some of my very early work and how much progress and how much improvement I've made over the years. And so if you just keep consistently practicing, I know that you'll get this. I know that you'll be able to learn this. So now the third step is to take off the training wheels and just to do each letter individually on its own. And this is where you're starting to just learn how to do each letter. And it's nice to have these lines so you kind of have a basic idea of where each letter is going to sit. And that gives you a good starting place. Eventually, you know, if you're going to create layouts and designs, you may just be using paper without any lines. And that's when it's helpful to sometimes write it out in pencil first. And you can also have different guidelines still that you're using, whether you use like a light box and you have those lines underneath so you can see them through a light box, or you write those in with pencil. It's always good to have those and to keep using those as you go. Now you can see mine are ending up being a little more at an angle than what was in the workbook, and that's fine. I want you to eventually discover your own style, and I have an entire section in the workbook that gives you very practical tips on how to discover your own lettering style. And so while we're on that topic, let me just do the word discover for the word D. I like to finish each video with a word that starts with that letter, so we'll use discover. Because in the beginning, it's good to copy, to learn, but then eventually you're going to want to develop your own style. And I have different styles that I use for different things. And so I just think that it's really great to go through that module in the workbook. And once you have the basics down, find what your style is and create your own alphabets. Again, my name is Shelly Hitz, and this is the Brushstrokes Workbook. You can find it at yourcreativeadventure.com/workbook, and I will see you in the next video.